Listen to this, the article goes on. The observed random emplacement and strictly homogeneous distribution of the fossil shells within the whole rock is in harmony with their initial in situ setting in a fluidal sea bottom environment. What? He just said this was underwater one day, under the ocean, these chunks of stone. That's all it's saying. So says Professor, I'm going to slaughter the poor guy's name, or gal's name, I don't even know, Ionis Lyrtizis, and his colleagues from the University of the Aegean and the University of Athens. So these non-biblical scholars x-rayed these stones, looked at them and said, whoa, these come from the bottom of the ocean. 40% fossils, marine fossils. Wonder how they got there. You go over into the kids' church and ask any of those kids, I'll tell those professors how it got there. Jesus said, allow the little children to come to me, for of such are the kingdom of heaven. I like this one. This is probably my favorite. Again, how many of you have ever heard of the Andes Mountains? When I think of a mountain, I think of like this triangle on a flat plain, and there's your mountain. Let me show you the Andes Mountains. They cover 7 nations and go through the entire South America, the Andes Mountains. The nations are Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Venezuela. Somebody was up in the high part of the mountains, and you never guess what they found. A whale fossil! A whale, a whole whale! Now how'd that whale get up on the top of that mountain and get buried in sediment quickly to fossilize? I'm telling you, how can you not believe in a global flood? How can you not? The Bible's evidence is record. The Bible's record is evidence for a global flood. The history of perhaps 500 other people groups who testified to a global flood is evidence for a global flood. Fossils on the highest mountains and in the deepest deserts, in the wettest and driest parts of the earth, high, low, everywhere you go. Fossils, fossils, fossils. And I saved my favorite to last. Let's say you're in some state, Pennsylvania, or some state that has coal mines, Virginia or the Appalachian Mountains. Somebody says, how'd you like to take a tour of our newest, deepest coal mine? We're about ready to break through it to a whole new depth. And it's perfectly safe. We'll give you a hat. We'll put you on a little train. Sure, I'll go. What the heck? And you get down to 245 feet below Earth. 245 feet straight down. They say, we're about ready to get into the 250 feet zone. The machines tear. And they pop open a cavern, and in that cavern you see a tree. What would that do for you? Listen to this. News article on MSNBC.com. Quote, fossilized rainforest found in coal mine. Forest which covers about 40 square miles is the largest ever found, about the size of San Francisco. There is a rainforest 250 feet below ground. There's one of the fossils in a coal mine. Now, I'm thinking, how do you get an entire rainforest buried under 250 feet of sediment without there being a global flood? I'd like to see that trick. I'd love to have seen the guy who dug it up and went, how'd that get there? What do you do for an answer if you won't believe in the Bible? Oh man, I would have loved to have been a fly on that wall. There's this verse, Psalm 33:4, that says in part, the word of the Lord is right and true. Say this with me. The word of the Lord is right and true. So what, Steve? There was a big flood. What's the big deal? So what? Let me tell you what the big deal is. God warned these people that the flood was coming, and they didn't listen. I'm sure on day 1 of the rain, they wished they had listened. And they were all wiped out except Noah and his family. If the flood story is true, maybe the prophecy found in the book of Revelation is also true. That God's going to judge the earth again. Not with water this time. Fire, plague, famine, pestilence, chaos in the cosmos, demons released, Satan inhabiting a human man and being the Antichrist. If the flood story is true, maybe that story is true. And if they didn't pay any attention to Noah, maybe, just maybe, they'll listen to you when you warn them. Now listen to this, 5 things about the story of Noah. Number 1, the world turned from God. Number 2, God reached out in love to the world time and again. Number 3, the world rejected God time and again. Number 4, God was patient until the world became incurable. And then number 5, God had no choice but to judge the world. See, people see the flood of Noah and say, man, God was mean. Oh no, the flood of Noah, it's a story of God's patience and mercy. He waited till the whole world was ruined. How long would you have waited? Somebody comes up to you and says, well, 50% of the people all want to kill you. They all want to rape you. They all want to steal from you and stab you in the back. Wipe them out. 60%, 70%? How long would you wait till you went to war with the Nazis? No, not all the Germans were bad. You see what I'm saying? We don't wipe out the Middle East because only 10% of them are terrorists. We could just drop a few nukes and be done with this already. But we don't think that's right and fair. We're like God, neither would He. He let the entire world, every human being except one, get ruined in evil before He flooded the world. And what did He do with that one guy? Saved him. Delivered him. A few years later, it happens again. This whole community, Sodom and Gomorrah, all these cities of the plain, they all go evil. And so God goes to Abraham, because his nephew lives there, and says, I'm going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah and all the cities of the plain. And Abraham says, no, that's not right. I'm thinking Abraham doesn't know God just yet. Abraham says, if I could find 50 people there, would you spare them for 50? And God said, I'll spare them for 50. Some people interpret that story like Abraham got a deal. He wasn't bargaining with God. It could have been like this. Of course I'll spare them for 50. You can find 50, I wouldn't judge the city. How about 40, God? I wouldn't judge them for 40. 30, God? I wouldn't judge them for 30. How about 20, God? I wouldn't judge them for 20. How about 10, God? Would you destroy them if there was just 10 people in all those cities? God said, no, for 10 I wouldn't do it. And I'm wondering why Abraham stopped there.